It's a great website for just gathering information that's just not necessarily biased on its own. And one of the things that Real Clear Politics does, particularly as we get closer to elections, is it takes an aggregate of the polls out there. So it'll take Gallup and Rasmussen, it'll take Marist, it'll take Research 2000, it'll take all these different polling firms, take their polling outcomes, and then average those polls. So it's a poll of the polls. And that's valuable, more so valuable than a poll itself. The value in seeing the trend of polls, that can be much more, in my opinion, much more valuable than just a specific poll at any given time by one specific outlet. So they got a Michigan, this poll is just out, Michigan Governor Cox versus Dillon. Dillon beats Cox by 1 vote. Hoekstra beats, this is a big deal. This will be a big deal. You're going to see this throughout the press. Particularly passed on by who? By Hoekstra. Hoekstra's going to go ahead. This is a Rasmussen poll. Hoekstra's going to make sure that everybody sees this because his main competitor is Cox for the Republican Party. Dillon looks like Dillon and Virginero are probably the two leading Democrat candidates right now for governor. There are other candidates who are running. There are other other Republican candidates running. Terry Lynn Land, check that. Mike Bouchard, the sheriff of Oakland County, is paired up with Terry Lynn Land, current Secretary of State. She would be his lieutenant governor. But this is a brand new, fresh off the polls. Now it would be now this is a Rasmussen. So Rasmussen, I'm not sure if they are secured as a polling firm. Whereas there are, like Mitchell, for example, is a Michigan polling firm where you would secure his services and ask him to conduct a poll for you. And that's important. Some of the, so anybody can say that they're a polling firm and put out information and say, well, Williams Polling Research, and if I have a dog in this race, if I want to see Bouchard win or Tom George out of Kalamazoo win this Republican gubernatorial primary, I might do the polling for George, and lo and behold, when I did the polling, I had George way up above Hoekstra and Cox as beating any Democrat candidate. So you got to know who's doing the polling because it does have an impact upon, you and I look at that polling and we get kind of try to get an idea as to whether or not somebody is gaining ground, losing ground. And this is again where Real Clear Politics does a fine job of taking multiple polls out there and then doing an average. RCP averages, this is what I like to take a look at. Here are government averages and results. These are from the 2008 election. And you can see that they'll take 5 polls or so, and they'll average those 5 polls, and this is the average they had for this Indiana governor race. They had 19.5 was going to be the outcome that Daniels was going to beat his competitor Thompson by 19.5 points. Percent. And then Daniels ended up winning actually by 17.7. So they were off a little bit from these 5 polls. Research 2000, these are all kind of different polling here going on. And then you'll see their different sample. And this matters as well. A registered voter and a likely voter are not the same thing. And how they determine who is a likely voter versus who is a registered voter may be internal to that organization. So all that matters in determining, and that's why I say, again, take polls, at least specific one polls, with a grain of salt. But why I like the RCP, Real Clear Politics, is because they take multiple polls, and they will even discount or toss out. If they believe a poll is a Democrat poll or a Republican poll, they won't include those polls in the last portion of an election. They won't include those polls in the outcome of the election. All right, even though this one really, this Democrat-leaning poll, really has the Republican way out up front, more so than many others. Okay, because they don't want to be tainted by Republican Democrat leaning. The other thing that you can do through Real Clear Politics, and this is again very important, is you can pull up the polls themselves. It's so important because you want to know if there is somebody who funded this poll, who did it. What is their background? What are their leanings? Does that have an impact? And then you can pull up the actual questions that were asked. Because the questions, this one's not found here. but the questions that are asked may have an impact upon the results garnered. A process called push polling is when you actually call up and you do it under the guise of a poll. You're seeking to gather information, but you're trying to taint the candidate in the question and how you ask the question. For example, if I called you up and I said, if an election were held today between Mark Schauer for U.S. Congress and Tim Walberg for U.S. Congress, who would you vote for? And if you said Mark Schauer, I might say, well, would you still vote for Mark Schauer if you knew that he beats his wife and kicks his dog? And an individual would say, well, no, I wouldn't vote for him. And you say, so you would vote for Walberg given that information? Yeah, I would vote for Walberg given that information. Again, what has happened there is, A, the polling information that comes out is, A, totally tainted, but B, the individual who is listening to the poll is now questions whether or not Mark Schauer is, beats his wife and kicks his dog or not. You at least left that perception in your mind. And this is something that happens on both sides of the aisle. It's not usually it's not from the candidates' campaigns themselves, but from groups that are supportive of those campaigns, that they'll do that push polling, that tactic.